Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are located. As you know, I'm Dario from Next Pharma Summit, and it's a great pleasure today to introduce this extraordinary panel with a pretty amazing lineup. The title of today's webinar is Pharma, Are You Ready for Digital Marketing Orchestration? And from my left to the right, really pleased to welcome Dirk Abeel from Reckitt. Hi, Dirk. How are you? Then Joaquín Pais from Madrid from ShowerThinking. Hi, Joaquín, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you, Dario.
From Sandoz, we have our very known speaker, Alexey Cherchago. Hi, Alexey, same question to you.
Hi, Dario, how are you doing?
Thank you. And from Sanofi, we have José María Guido Avila. José María or Chema, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. I hope you're doing fine too.
Thank you. Indeed, I am. Passing the stage now to Saman from ShowerThinking, who prepared a very interesting introduction, who will kick off the stage today and drive the conversation. So I'm really keen and curious to listen to your gentlemen, and definitely looking forward to learn a lot today. Saman, the stage is yours.
So thank you very much, Dario. Hi, everybody. I just want to welcome all of our attendees around the world. We have about 45 minutes of exciting discussions for you. As Dario presented the topic, we are going to be talking about the marketing orchestration. It is kind of the hottest topic right now in the market, marketing, and particularly digital marketing. And we want to understand what are its challenges. We have two very fundamental questions about this marketing orchestration that we are going to tackle today. One of them is, why do we need marketing orchestration? And then the other one is, how do we achieve marketing orchestration, and practically a discussion about the best practices. And then at the end of this, we are going to conclude with a healthy Q&A session. We have budgeted a good amount of time for a good Q&A session at the end. As you may be familiar with the GoToWebinar dashboards, please send your questions throughout the presentation, and then I'll just moderate at the end and then pose it to our speakers on this front. We do have some polling questions actually that we are going to post to our audience at the end of every kind of major segment. I'll open the polls, and then I'll ask you please to respond to that if you feel comfortable answering those. So without further ado, let's go through the presentation. No need to repeat the introductions. Dario did a great job on that one. I'd like to welcome our speakers. And I'm, as Dario mentioned, I'm executive advisor at ShowerThinking. On that, for some of you who may not know ShowerThinking is a hybrid marketing and technology agency. We offer a complete portfolio of services for all marketing and technology needs of pharma companies. We have been recognized as a top 10 Salesforce solution providers in Europe, and most importantly, we launch more than 50 campaigns every month across the globe and 40 countries on that. Just some housekeeping item. A disclaimer that throughout this presentation, we are going to be using the brand names and key platforms that are used, particularly mostly with pharma industry right now. So all logos and trademarks are the properties of the respective companies and owners on that. All right, so let's talk about the marketing orchestration and the DNA of the marketing orchestration. So this is a busy chart, and that's truly what represents marketing orchestration on that. If we start, from the middle of this chart left, our audience for sales and marketing are HCPs and patients, and we approach them with offline, and face-to-face visits, and as well as all the digital channels that we have. We use various kind of channels to reach out to these to our audience, all the way from web portals, emails, webinars, and all the way to the right of this kind of DNA chart that we have various metrics to measure what we have done. We collect the data, we segment it, we analyze it. So there are various tools that we use and all various resources that we use on that. At the bottom of this chart, you see a representation of the platforms that we use, the CRMs or customer relationship management tools. Then we have all the smarts and marketing automation tools and AIs and engines behind all that. and also all the data analytics and also the content management tools that we are using at the bottom on this. And at the top of this chart, now you see all the great teams that actually work, and you are all quite likely a part of these teams, or whether you're a part of the global or local management part of the marketing and sales orchestration. And we have brand managers, product managers, multi-channel marketing managers, etc. And or we are in the part of the technical side of this on the IT side. As you can see, there are a lot of resources available to the marketing and sales organizations in pharma to manage interaction. And ultimately, there's obviously a single goal or multiple kind of important goals to extract out of this. This is practically right now forms the foundation for what we call marketing orchestration. How to have a harmonious interaction between all of these resources that, as you can see, this is quite overwhelming, and how to achieve the goals that we have on this. Now, with this kind of introduction, I'd like kind of to dive in right away to the key actually questions surrounding marketing orchestration, and I'm going to invite our panelists to comment about a few topics that are really important about this. Let me start actually with our first speaker, Dirk, here, and I'd like to pose this kind of broad question, Dirk. Why do we need marketing orchestration? Why it is such an important part of particularly pharma industry?
I can already say a very good question, obviously, and you said it a very open and broad question. And I want even to make it a bit broader, because I would rather say, rather than the whole marketing orchestration, is the commercial orchestration. Because needless to say, marketing has a critical role to play in setting the strategies, but then of course also the sales organization in how to properly execute that. So why do we need to do that? I think if the whole pandemic has learned us one thing, is it's not enough to have all kinds of channels interacting next to each other. We really want, and you mentioned it in your introduction, it's about being customer-centric and being customer-centric, or helping our customers doing the same with their patients. So we really need to create what I would say a seamless experience across all these touch points, which we are activating depending on the purpose of interaction. So a lot of heavy words I'm using here, but that's why it is so critical that there is an orchestrating piece happening, because for the end user, being it the customer, being it the patient, they want to have a seamless experience independently from the channel we are embarking on. And channel, we will come back to that, obviously, is not like how we like to see it always as an organization, but what healthcare providers and the patients are using in their day-to-day life, depending again of the purpose of the interactions. So that's for me, it very shortly said why this is critical. So very high level alignment between the marketing strategies, properly understood then by the commercial or by the sales organization, in driving this seamless kind of experience in a proper sequence kind of approach. So I could keep on talking the whole session here about it, because it's a very broad and passionate topic, but I think that for me are the critical parts why we have to do that. And it's really looking at our customers and patients, what they want.
No, that is actually very true, and thank you for touching on that, because now we can dig a little bit deeper into that, and I'd like to pass this right now to Chairman on this. Now, with that understanding, that's a very broad topic, and there are many elements involved in that. So, Jose Maria, what do you think are the biggest challenges from your perspective to get this commercial orchestration?
Well, it's again very broad, because the challenges could be even from the point of view of the procedures and the processes that we have as a company, right? Or even the compliance rules that we have. But before getting there, I think we need to think about first on the biggest challenge is that the HCPs or doctors are people too. So they are this seamless experience. It's also on the daily life. When they go to Amazon, for example, if you mapped this journey that you have here, when the HCP goes to log into the web and so on, if you map that journey in Amazon, It's literally getting into Amazon, finding your product, buying it. There is only just one button that says buy it now. Instead of adding it to your basket, it's already buy it now, and then you have everything there. So you don't have to log in, you don't have to open any email, you don't have to do anything. It's really seamless. So first, we need to map those journeys of HCPs as people, so that we can find out how our processes are delivering to that. So, and in this case, for example, if you think about if the doctor has to log into the web, this may be a legal requirement, or this may be a compliance requirement that we have to to validate that this is a real an HCP. And so we need to transform not only the processes and the technology, but also the mindset, and become a little bit more flexible on understanding those needs and find solutions to make those journeys more flexible and more frictionless, so that we map those steps and find out which of those steps can be deleted and what are absolutely necessary. So this would be my
So that's actually true. And you know, you've touched on the very topic I wanted actually to bring it up to both of you, Dirk and Jose Maria, on this. You know, there are a few steps that in this digital journeys that, you know, our clientele, HCPs or patients, they would go through, right? And they're very different. They serve different purposes. And you talked about how on Amazon things are very straightforward. There's a term that, you know, you hear actually that this commercial orchestration really trying to address, and it's digital fatigue on this. So what do you think of this? Let me ask you. Maybe Dirk, we'll start with you, and then I'll pass it afterwards. Please pass it to Jose Maria. I'd like to hear.
When I was hearing that question, I wanted to yawn, but I wouldn't be appropriate, obviously. So I think it's very relevant, because look at ourselves. From early morning till late in the evening, we're all behind our screens. And if I look at the messages I'm receiving, maybe 60–70% is not relevant for me, or not directly relevant, or it's not appealing to me. Even it can be relevant, but it's not appealing to me, but it's requesting my time. So you can imagine healthcare professionals that have been used to see literally people, touching people, to do the diagnosis, and suddenly everything has to happen, or a big part has to happen in the remote environment. So constantly being concentrated is definitely something we are not really used at. So what I want to say is, with digital fatigue, for me, we have a big responsibility there, because what we've been doing in the past in the face-to-face world was often also a bit the same. There was not digital fatigue, but was messaging fatigue, because we were going there, bombarding HCPs with what we thought they wanted to know, without caring about if that was true, yes or no. In the digital world, this became even worse. Luckily, they still have a lot more power now, because they can decide to read something or not to read something, to participate in a webinar like this one or not. So the reason why I'm saying that is, and it's related to what we said before, if we really want to be customer-centric and patient-centric, we really need to have a proper segmentation and also targeting model, having the right data behind, so that independently of the interactions we are having, we are focusing on bringing value. Any interaction of which we cannot say what the value is for each HCP, we should stay away from. And by doing that, we will already have a lot lesser kind of interactions and sending all kind of messages. And this will definitely also help in reducing this kind of digital stress, like we call it. And obviously, interactivity, short meetings, focused meetings, taking breaks, that stays all relevant, like it also has been, I would say, in the physical world. So that's my take on this.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jose Maria.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing some research on the digital fatigue. I recently did a study with Sermo on just asking simple questions to the doctors about how many webinars are you invited per month, and how many of those do you really attend live or watch the recording. And it was brutal. It was like more than 60% of doctors don't even watch the recording, you know, or attend live, because exactly because the pharma industry, exactly as Dirk was saying, we just switched what we were doing face to face, which was bombarding them with messages with sales reps, and then we just put it into digital. And now it was a bombarding with emailings and webinars. So to be able to, building on Dirk's point, there is a big component of data usage and really being data driven, which is why it's such a buzzword these days, because you really need to identify these changes in the behaviors of the HCPs, because again, they're people. So if you, let me give you one example. I was speaking with one of my countries some time ago, a couple of months ago, and they were telling me, Chema, how can we increase the attendance to the webinars? And I was like, have you thought about that? Maybe your doctors don't want webinars. So if you're really looking at that and you say they're not attending anymore, don't push them, right? Rather change the format, you know, make them shorter, or bring the content of that webinar in a different way. So they were looking at the data properly, but they were not activating it on a customer-centric way, but rather on what they wanted to push to the HBs. And this whole thing, it's done in the whole pharma industry, and this is what is causing the digital fatigue.
Very, very good, very good.
There's one thing I would like to add, if I can. Just one short notice. What José Maria said is, and it has been mentioned before also by you, is the whole organization needs to make this switch from being really brand focused. And I like to use that word, is to say we are providers of solutions. And that can be a branded solution, that can be an unbranded solution, which is a service, which is changing. It's only words, but if you live to that, the whole organization has to change their focus rather than the brand and pushing the brand to understand what is that bringing as a value to our target audiences.
That's great, actually. Interesting topic you brought up, and I'll just bring this up as well quickly to get your insight to it. We obviously, as a big goal, we talk about having a customer-centric approach. Everything we do, ultimately, we are aiming to achieve that ideal situation. Where do you think we are at? And Dirk, José Maria, feel free to comment, either of you, from this. Do you think we are 100% customer-centric at the moment? Are we truly there, or we have work to do?
Personally, I think
Smiley, I see a lot of smiles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In theory, we are all there. Yeah? In practice, we are far from there. And the reason for me is exactly what I said at the start. There is still this divide between the commercial within the commercial organization, and really agreeing on how do we bring value across everything we are doing. And we know what we should do, but there are so many internal hurdles not to do that. So I think if the pandemic has really confronted us with like a mirror in your face, is that if you see the interactions and they're not willing to interact with you anymore, then you know definitely that in the past you were not customer-centric, neither patient-centric. And that's why a lot of companies today are still struggling in understanding how do they get grip again on that situation, because the grip, the control has changed from our side to their side. And I think that's a great way to look at it. So for me, still a long way to go there. And as already mentioned by José Maria, data are demonstrating us that too, because we start seeing, based on data points and interactions, it is not delivering the expected outcome. We do not see the change in behavior we are looking for from our healthcare providers. So a lot of work to do. The good thing is it has surfaced now. It is there on the table. It is visible. It's transparent. And now it's up to us to say, how do we deal with that? Do we ignore it, or do we act on it in the benefit of what we said we wanted to do?
No,
Yeah, I think
thank you.
Sorry, let me just build on that, because I was yeah, I think we were all thinking the same, that we are not ready, probably. I was when you asked the question, the immediate thing that came to my mind was there are two components to this. It's one is the silo thinking, or even silo acting, because, for example, I, as a marketer, if I say this content has to be unbranded, the medical team is like, how come can you say that? I mean, you're marketing. There is a belief that marketing has to be always branded, right? And And when I show some customer centricity and I say I'm going to produce content for my customers that don't have a brand because I just want to give them a service, really people look at me like a weird species. That's one thing, because historically this has been the belief. But also it's the opposite, right? So for example, when we talk about customer experience and customer satisfaction, sometimes this topic feels a little bit fluffy to senior leaders, because you talk about customer feelings, and and then they are expecting tangible business outcomes. So there is still not a connection between customer satisfaction and business outcomes, and this is a very difficult line to connect. I have been in many meetings when I say, well, our objective should be customer experience and make the most seamless experience and so on. And people literally tell me, great, okay, this is great, we're here, but we're also business. So where are the numbers? How are we? And they don't make the connection sometimes. So I think we need to work on these topics to really be able to move from brand centric to customer centric.
That's true, and you know that's a very good segue to our next part of this webinar, which is really how to create actionable data, and we are going to touch on that with Joaquín and Alexey on this. But before we move to that part, I have two questions for our audience, which I'm going to launch right now. One question is whether you believe we have proper commercial or marketing orchestration in our industry, or you can comment from your perspective or your company's perspective on that. So I'll give a few seconds to collect the results. If you should see that the poll to be open for that question in your panel. That's interesting. So the results, just to share with you, that the trend, 50% or so of our audience believe that there's an average understanding. 20% they believe that they have, or their respective companies have, a good understanding, and another 20% or so they believe that the understanding is not actually that great in their surrounding environments or in pharma on this. Very good. Thank you so much. So I'm just gonna close this poll and have the second question actually related to this part. So do you or your company, or you believe your clientele, do they measure customer digital fatigue or HCP fatigue on that, or do you get proper feedback actually from your clientele on that front? You know, if you believe that as yes, mark it yes or no. Simple answer to that, and we're going to have a few, another 20-30 seconds to allow for that poll to come in. This one is rather quite binary, the results. Majority believe that the answer is no, but we have about 16 to 20% also that they have answered yes, which is actually, I believe it's actually really good, because I personally didn't expect to be this even at that 15 to 20%. Well, thank you, everybody. So I'm just going to close this poll, and we're going to carry on to the second part of this this webinar. All right, so we talked a little bit about why we need it, some of the kind of high-level challenges of commercial or marketing orchestration. In the second part, we're going to talk about how to get this done. Let me start with this key question, as what we believe are the critical elements of implementing a successful commercial and marketing orchestration. Alexey, if you don't mind, I'll start with you.
Sure, Saman. Sure. I would say that Dirk and Jose Maria, they mentioned a couple of critical elements, right? Customer satisfaction, proper segmentation, seamless engagement. And for me, talking about marketing orchestration, there are two important elements, right? Cross-channel interactions and personalization of engagement that drives positive customer experience. Therefore, starting point for implementation is always about data and systems. All data need to be centralized on one platform and well segmented, to be used efficiently. It's critical to have homogeneously integrated information and technology. For example, central record for customer data or full transparency around impact of different communication channels which we are using. We can hardly obviously build IT infrastructure from scratch. Therefore, legacy and new systems should connect the dots between different customer channels, tools, and campaigns. This is the first point. Then the second one, I can hardly imagine implementation of marketing orchestration without proper cultural support and organizational design that ensures cross-functional collaboration while, I don't know, planning and executing customer engagement campaigns. There is an increasing importance of pull touch points and decrease of impact and access for push touch points. Both Dirk and Jose Maria mentioned this already. Mm-hmm. However, medical representatives still play a critical role in the engagement process, and they actually are driving this two-way ongoing conversation between pharma companies and our customers, their customers, right? I would like to mention also a couple of several implications for core ComEx processes. Since we are talking about cross-channel interactions and personalization, first of all, customer segmentation approach should be extended with the dimensions reflecting at least channel and content preference. Yeah, in the past with mono-channel execution, face-to-face execution, we didn't have a necessity to do this. Now we have 5-6 channels. It's important to understand how to use them in the proper way according to expectations of our customers. And content preference. We should put it inside our customer segmentation approach. To power more relevant and personalized experiences in real time, we should have a proper support, I would say, probably from analytics and insight generation tools. Another interesting element, I would say, is content production. Content production, of course, must also be orchestrated. If we are talking about marketing orchestration, we should also orchestrate content production. Physicians no longer demand the same. There is, so to say, it is called asymmetry of expectations. Different people would like different times. So it's essential to use efficient tools to produce, schedule, and publish materials in different channels. At this point, I would like also to ask Joaquín, what do you think? What are the most critical and important elements for you when we are talking about operationalization of marketing orchestration?
Hi, Alexey. Yes, this is one of the first questions that we got from our customers. At the end of the day, we are an agency, and obviously in our engagement with customers, they as soon as we start working, they ask us which is how we can improve the personalization or how we can improve this customer experience that we are trying to do. My response is always the same, or my answer is always the same. There are like two different paths or two different possibilities where I see that now in this moment the pharma industry can highly benefit. One of them is the tactical way. How do we implement it? And obviously my response there is that following the best practice for other sectors should be a way that if you are trying to create a customer journey now in health and pharma, probably you need to take a look because at the end of the day, for example, in the consumer market, in the automobile market, there are many experience, about what you are trying to do. I still see many implementation for different journeys, that have a lot of, for example, there is a concept which is called friction. How many clicks or how many digital and offline interactions do you need to achieve your goal? And this is still some area that needs a lot of improvement. And this is basically because many times, as you mentioned before, the marketing and digital teams, they still they are going very fast, but they still need to understand a little bit more or have more experience about how best work this customer experience. And the ODR area, and this is something that I think that also Dirk commented in his question, is about the strategy. I need to evolve a little bit. From my point of view, a very quick fix in this sector will be to follow what in other sector we call the inbound marketing. So I see that still a lot of campaigns I'm going from a push. So this is my journey, this is my message, please implement it. Probably it should be seen for another angle, and the angle is, what is the customer trying to do? Instead of being a campaign-driven approach to these journeys, we will need an event-driven approach. With an event-driven approach, what I mean is what I do once the HCP or the patient makes something, for example, in my web, for example, during a face-to-face visit or something like that. So my response, for how to quickly, or which from your VR, your quick fix, what do you see in the industry? I will say, in summary, I will say that there are these both. Trying to reduce the friction, especially in digital channels, there is still a lot of improvement. And in terms of strategy, is you call it inbound marketing, or you call it pull marketing instead of push marketing. In terms of strategy, there are some areas that I think that we still can improve a lot.
Very nice.
Thank you very much, Joaquín. Thanks a lot. One additional remark from my side. What is interesting, that we have a lot of changes of approaches, application of different technologies and R&D, for example, right? But over the last 20 years, our commercial models actually remain the same. And now, a couple of years ago, we faced a situation when altogether we had to change something, right? And this is quite interesting, because what we can see is fundamental shift from push to pull. And where we are strong, especially when I'm talking about commercial excellence, planning, execution, capabilities for field forces, this is sequential SFE, where we have a linear process, right? And organized predominantly around push channels. And what is expected seems to be from our customers is something different. Therefore, this is quite interesting to hear from your side a feedback from other industries and slightly different approaches which you can observe in other business domains.
Yeah, absolutely agree, Alexey.
Let me interject that, because we touched on this thing right now that we are all moving towards achieving and implementing the best practices. But it's a very well-known fact that there's also a big gap in our industry and in the pharma industry for commercial excellence. And it doesn't mean that we don't have great experts, but it needs to keep up pace with the ever-growing kind of the digital world that we have on this. So maybe Joaquín, I'll address this to you. What do you see the trends are in terms of pharma managing their organization, structuring their organizations to kind of fill in that gap?
Wow, it's a big question. Probably, the other guys here can understand or can explain a little bit more from their internal view. But I see that which is amazing is that, as you say, commercial managers, now they need to understand a lot about digital interactions, and it's just happening in 1 or 2 years. So I see a major change. But I would prefer that some of the guys here they make the response, because their knowledge is more valuable, I think, for this kind of question.
Sure, open to everybody if you want to comment. Alexey, Jose Maria, Dirk.
Yeah.
Okay. Dirk, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I wanted to say is we have to avoid that. We like to be magic about titles. We are very inventive regarding titles. We say, okay, now we have a commercial excellence manager, so that's it, guys. For me, again, it's about what has been said before, but it has to do with change management, and not, for me, the rational change management, because I think we are all good at that, understanding why things should happen, but also the emotional side in this whole change management, and taking everyone in the bath at the same time to let them understand why this is important, how we're going to do that, what is your role in it, across the different roles and functions we have in an organization, and starting with the C-suite and the famous C-suite, who are often quite vocal about it, but often when you look at the reality, what is happening internally is not always reflecting what you would expect. So that's for me already a big thing we should do, and it's not immediately tangible, but in the organizations where you see that happening, automatically the focus is going outward. And that's another thing I wanted to say is, and it's again related to change management, it's really, you have always two kinds of people in an organization. To make it very easy, you have those that see for every change which is coming ahead of them as a hurdle. It's an issue, and there's a pushback. And that means that there is something missing there. The understanding is not there. And then you have the other people who see this not as an issue, but as an opportunity. And I say, in a commercial excellence organization, there are no issues, there are opportunities. And that's the mindset we need to have. That's a dynamic process, and change is there to stay, and you have to embrace it and give it the right place within your organization, and the organization has to follow. And with that, I would say I end my sermon.
But I do like the term, the change manager. That's actually the right, I think that's absolutely the right term for it, because that is really what we need to get to the goal of improving our customer experience on that. And one question that we carried over from the discussion with Dirk and Jose Maria at the beginning of this webinar was, how do we improve actionable data on this? Now, we know this, that it just comes down to the metrics on that. And I'd like to pass it again to Alex and Joaquín on this. If you will to dig deeper on the technical side of this, by all means, go ahead. Because that is right now where really we kind of, I would say that is a really critical part, actionable data, the metrics. Go ahead.
Let me start with him, if I may.
Sure.
There are a couple of elements, right? And again, for quite a long period of time, SAP, or afterwards we even called it commercial excellence, key focus was on engagement itself, activity data, all these elements around coverage and frequency. When we are talking about quite homogeneous interactions, transactional interactions, it was kind of not bad, right? Now, when we are moving from product centricity to customer centricity, there are a couple of additional elements. First of all, and we already discussed, we mentioned here a bit earlier, knowledge about customer. If you would like to be customer centric, if you would like to be relevant, then we should spend some time to understand customer needs. And this is additional element in the performance management landscape, the first one. And the second element, just to close this loop, is the customer satisfaction. Again, this is something which we need to include into regular performance management landscape, and it should be part of our analytics. The second piece here for me is some changes for different roles in our companies, right? What is it? We need to be clear with what is expected from medical representatives. What do we expect from back office? And try to align analytics according to changes of job profiles, because if we try to change analytics, introduce customer satisfaction, and do not upgrade, vertically vertical organizations where very difficult to run cross-functional activities, it might not work as we would like. And the third one, completely agree, culture and mindset. It's really important. We need to, first of all, we should be clear on why we are doing this, and then discuss what exactly and how we are going to implement it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, from my view, Alexey, I also see that we are like in the middle of a war of analytics. We see that we all agree that we have been in a major change in the industry. So the analytics, which is what we call the business analytics, is already solved usually inside every company. So you get actionable data from Viva, some kind of reports for all the commercial activity. But now we are having a problem is that we are integrating new systems, and they are related to marketing. So together with this business analytics, we need to solve another layer, which is the marketing analytics. We need to solve information, because in Viva or with this kind of business analytics, we cannot introduce data, or it's very difficult to introduce the data from, for example, Google Analytics, external source, even social media like LinkedIn, or external webinars as the ones we are doing now. So why we say that we are in a war? It's like we are in the middle of a war in many companies against where the traditional business analytics needs to evolve with all these digital analytics. And there is still even not a clear platform where I will store all this information. We need to identify all these HCPs in order to be sure, or in order to have this analytics. So we need to have a common identifier in your offline interaction, in your digital interaction, how I solve this issue. So I see that we are still in terms of analytics from my view, we are still in the middle of a major war, and to see where the digital analytics platform in pharma and also in other industries is going to go.
Very good. No, thank you, Joaquín. Actually, that's a very good segue to the two questions that we have for this segment. So I'd like to wrap up this segment quickly with two questions, and then we go to the exciting part of the Q&A as well on this. So the first question, which I'm going to launch right now, is how much of the data we are collecting, or you or your company is collecting, you think is being processed and it is actionable data? As Joaquín mentioned, we are collecting a lot of data. Are we being efficient in using that? So I'll have this for about 30 seconds or so, or 40 seconds. I'd like to know your opinion on this. And then the audience actually believes that we are using some of it, not and some audience, a small number, believe that most of the data that you're collecting, they're being used efficiently, which is actually good. But the ratios is still about 10-15% to 90% or so in terms of our audience. So thank you so much. I'm just going to move to the second question for our audience to get their feedback, and that's actually an interesting question. What do you think is the biggest challenge? This is from our audience perspective, that our industry and pharma or your company is facing around marketing orchestration or commercial orchestration and customer experience, whether it is a strategy related part, it is a technology part, or it is related to operational experience. So where do you think, which layer from your perspective is the one that has the biggest challenge on their plate on that? So again, the poll is open for a few seconds or about a minute. Well, this has an interesting distribution right now. Almost 20% of our audience believe that it is related to strategy, 20% related to the tech, and 50% or so related to the operational experience. So if we were to rank them 50-60% operational experience, then the second part is the strategy and the last part is technology. We all believe we have the right technology, but it looks like that we just need to, as we have been talking about, is to orchestrate it better on this. Well, thank you so much. So I'll close this poll as well. Thanks for the feedback. And now let's go to the. I'd like to thank our speakers. Let's go to the Q&A session on this. We got a few questions and we have got about 10 minutes left from this. So we try to address as many as possible. And if our audience, if you saw that you have posted a question and you didn't get the response, we're going to follow up with you. So please be patient on that. So one question to our audience, actually this from one of the veterans in our industry is this. The marketing and sales planning in any company, that's about, it reads, in what stage of marketing and sales planning this orchestration is done? Is it a strategic element or a tactical element? Dirk, let me pass this to you. What do you think? This is something that, we know it has both elements, but where do we start? From strategy or tactics?
You start from the strategy, obviously, for me. And I would like to call that you need to have an integrated commercial planning. And then you decide on, okay, what are the channels? The tactical part is the channels you need, the channel activation. But first of all, everything starts with a strategy and of course aligned with what is it you want to achieve by engaging with your target and audience, your segmentation strategy, etc. And I can understand the question because too often people start with the channel activation. And I always say that's the easy part of the game. You can activate the channel tomorrow, but what are you going to do with it? What is your content strategy behind? Which kind of behavior do you want to change? How are you going to measure that? What is the place you give to your customer experience and your patient experience to see, is this working, yes and no? So that's my take on this question. And then it became silent.
Oh,
no, sorry, I was overwhelming answer.
That's true. That's my understanding as well on this. Now we have actually an interesting question. Is how do we manage global and local campaigns when it comes to marketing orchestration? Mm-hmm. Who wants to take a shot at this?
Well, from my view, and one of the elements that need this marketing orchestration is to create an operational model. Many times is not just a matter of creating a single customer journey for a company, but making it scalable. So many times at the headquarters level or at global level, a customer journey is designed. But how do we implement in every different market or country, and how can you operate it? So an operational model, which is where you mix together best practice, also training for the local and global teams, and also the appropriate technology. This is where it makes sense, to create these operational plans. At least from my view. I don't know what you think, guys.
Let me jump into. I think that in global, the teams have to be flexible enough to provide the right tools for the tactical implementation. So because sometimes if global teams are thinking about a visual aid of 100 pages, right, full of data, and then they're not thinking about, for example, they don't have a mindset of creating, for example, content for different personas for different channels, then the countries will not be able to activate. So then they're going to start doing their own thing, right? So it's a matter of learning. So in global, being flexible to produce the content that it's going to serve the personas that are developed at the country level. Sometimes global personas are too static and too unflexible that they don't let you let you serve the needs of the countries. This is my experience.
It's a very good point, José Maria. I think that's exactly the same concept of customer centricity, right? Where preparing something, providing some services, global teams should think about country colleagues, right? The first point from my side, and the second one, this is again, marketing orchestration should be supported by a culture and specific organizational structure as well, right? When we are thinking vertically and try to put in place something which has horizontal nature, then there will be some tensions.
And to add on that, I think what's critical from a global perspective is they should provide the backbone, especially when it is really about a global campaign or a power brand or whatever. And for me also, it's about key messages, metadata tagging, which shouldn't stop markets to do the customization because there are cultural aspects and etc. So, but there should be, we definitely should make sure that there's a connection between what is happening from a global and a local perspective, because that's the learning point. And then to see how can we leverage these insights to other geographies who maybe are embarking on this campaign later. So we need to keep, I would say it's this typical, it's another buzzword, sorry for it, and this kind of global approach. But again, and we always need to dig data. Data need to be behind that to let us see what is working in certain settings, yes or no, because that's also valuable for the regional marketing teams, the global marketing teams, and so on.
Thank you, Joe. I know that was a very comprehensive answer. Really appreciate it. I hope I'll convey this. And another question we have right now is from our audience. What are the non-negotiable set of skills Pharma needs internally to drive marketing and commercial orchestration? Now, specifically more on the marketing and digital leads. Who likes to comment about that? José Maria, someone looks like you're ready.
Let me know. I'm not. I was going to say that it's a very broad answer, but I'm going to start, and maybe the rest can complement. I think the first part is to have a growth mindset. You know, I don't know, maybe you're familiar with the term of fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And when you move from fixed mindset where everything has to be perfect and failure is something unacceptable, and you move to a growth mindset where you learn from experience, where everything is an opportunity to improve. And that is the first part, because then you will be looking forward to fail from the beginning and learn and iterate and improve. This is the very first part. Together, because you can talk about digital skills and we can even say we need people to train them on the thumb zone, which is a very skill specific for user experience designers or something. I think for me the starting point is a growth mindset.
Very good, very important one.
I like that one because that at the end is what it should focus on. And I think on top of that, of course, for me, it should be someone who can inspire others, who can orchestrate properly between the different functions. So cross-functional orchestration, I would say, definitely, of course, having a strategic edge, forward-looking, where is it we want to go as an organization. For me, also a good listener and someone who really can inspire people to understand why this kind of transition we are going to as an industry will be better for everyone, being it internally, but especially externally. So, and obviously also having a good understanding about the importance and the role of what I would call the sales enablement or commercial enablement area, which is about the right platforms, tools, and so on and so forth. So quite an omni capturing role, I would say, to stay in the terminology of omnichannel.
Very good.
Let me add two things. The first one is curiosity. I think these people should be curious because a lot of things is ongoing, right? Growth mindset, being inspired, curiosity. This is exactly people who should have this pioneering spirit, you know, because a lot of things is ongoing for the moment. This is one, and the second one, I agree, Dirk, it's bridging, you know, because to connect the dots between different functions, between commercial objectives, our expectations around customer satisfaction is not so easy. For me, curiosity and good bridging capabilities.
Yeah.
True. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to go through a couple more questions in the 3-4 minutes that we have. So one question that we comment about, but definitely needs more kind of elaboration, is from one of our audience. How are organizations seeking to demonstrate that customer satisfaction and better customer experience drives business outcomes?
I think that question may be for me because I was talking about that before.
Perhaps.
But I don't think I don't think this is the case yet. Because, like I said, we're not even connecting the dots. We haven't even defined what it's a seamless customer experience. But I think the answer is going to come later as the more we collect data. So if you see actually this slide, the more you analyze data you collected by segments, you can start running models like correlation models, right? Like multivariate models that can explain certain levels of investment and certain level of satisfaction, explaining the prescriptions or the sales, right? But I think that it's gonna, for example, you can just run level of net promoter score across the year versus improvement in sales at some point, and you can try to explain the variables in the model, but you need the data, and I don't think we have the answer yet. I don't know what you guys think.
It's like, for me, it's also related to what we said before and these actionable insights. But I think, first of all, as an industry, we should articulate very clearly what is it we want to see at the end of the day, which kind of insights we want to find out. And then I think it's about setting up controlled environments and start playing with the different levers and to see what is the impact. Like Jose Maria said, it could be net promoter score, it could be top of mind, it could be a lot of other things. At the end of the day, of course, it should articulate into prescriptions, so advocacy, and so on and so forth. But I think, and I agree, we are at the start of this journey. It is a very interesting journey, but working with scenarios and following up with it and start playing in a controlled environment and circling back to the customers and to the patients who should be part of that whole exercise, obviously.
Maybe I can add that here agile mindset should drive all our experiments with the data. First of all, if you would not start tracking NPS now, then in 1 year we will not be able to answer this question, right? This is the first one. And the second one, sometimes, you know, when you are playing with the data, when you can see the data in front of you, it's possible to connect the dots. It's possible to see, you know, something new. And here I would say it's really important to make a couple of first steps, and then it will be clearer. Then we'll be able to define targets and bring a bit more solid concepts like we have around other KPIs.
Thank you. Actually, you know, we have a very long list of questions, so I'm gonna try to, which is always a good sign. We have a very engaged audience. I'm gonna combine 2 or 3 of them right now in the next question, which I'm gonna pose. It's practically about how do we scale our marketing or commercial orchestration and omnichannel strategy? That's actually a very good question, because, you know, we know every pharma company has most of these elements or bits and pieces, but question is, okay, how do we take it to the next level and we scale it up?
Well, from my view, or at least we follow a model for different steps. So this kind of task cannot be taken from one single step. You know, you need to decide which are the steps that when you need to escalate inside the company. So probably many companies need to fix or understand which is the the consent management that they have with the HCPs or patients, whatever they are. And then they can go through a multi-channel approach, then a omni-channel approach, then using more technologies like digital scoring or even predictive. So from my view, it should be we work with a model that have something like 5 different steps, and in each step you are trying to fix or address one of the needs that in order to be scalable. But obviously it's a complex matter anyway.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. For me, again, it's this end-to-end process. It starts again, first of all, with your strategies, of course, the imperatives. Then what are the proxies, your conversion points? Then you can go to your tactics, prioritization and planning and measurement. And what we love to do is then, okay, guys, we think this is fantastic now. We have gone over and back, also involve customers, and so let's do a pilot. Within the back of the head, scalability. And I think that's critical when you do pilots, that you can do this fast on a sufficient big scale so that you can measure different parameters of your model, including the whole platform, which should support that. And if that is giving the right outcome, then I think scalability is a question of doing the proper things, like we know from a global organization, going from one market to another or to regional kind of rollouts. But I think if it is a new process, take your time to set it up properly and test it, but test it in a real environment. And then, okay, you can still fine tune it. And when the outcome is there, then you go. Or you say, okay, it's not 100%, it will never be 100%. We go with 50 or 60%, but we know there's a phase 1, a phase 2, a phase 3, and a phase 4 in enhancement and enhancement and enhancement. That's part also of the journey.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. Time flies by. We're at the top of the hour. We have still a long list of questions. We are going to follow up with our audience with their questions offline. You'll have obviously the links to the recording of this, to all the Q&A sessions, and also we are going to follow up with you offline with the questions that we couldn't answer today or discuss. I'd really like to thank everybody, particularly our speakers. Thank you so much for your time, and most importantly also our audience that attended. It was a very interactive session. Thank you so much, everybody. So look forward to having everyone on our next topic and next discussion.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Everyone, bye-bye. Take care.